I don't even know where to begin.
Oh, say something. Anything.
Honestly. Let me just read out this headline and then maybe you will begin to understand my disbelief. Hugely divisive vote to legalize assisted deletion, is what I'm calling it because of YouTube censors, could be held within weeks after Prime Minister backed plans to fast track it through the Commons.
What did you say?
Starmer, there is this little place called Canada that has this same or similar bill, and now people are being bumped off because they're either slightly depressed or just a hindrance.
I vote for the motion.
The best politicians are narcissists.
One woman, in fact, in Canada saw this firsthand. Being physically disabled herself, the government over there made it very difficult for her to live day to day, so that in the end, the only choice she was offered was self-deletion. Starve them, cut them off from participating in society, and then offer them death, she wrote. That alone should tell you all you need to know about this sort of bill. I've said this in previous videos, Starmer's Labour Party are worse than anything that's come before, for they are the result of the Blair years, the result of learning from the mistakes of the 70s. They know how to promise the world in opposition, then be given the opportunity to govern, and then force everything they can in 4 short years, so that their vision of the Britain that they want is a forever Britain.
There are examples in Canada where it's legal that are quite hair-raising. There was that one in March of a 27-year-old woman with autism and ADHD who was granted the right to end her own life, despite her father saying that she wasn't in her right mind and it wasn't in her best interest. I mean, look, you know, the Labour's proposal is only restricted to terminally ill adults who have 6 months life expectancy.
For now.
And so, so there isn't, an immediate danger of that happening. But the worry is that once you've opened the door to assisted dying, it might creep over the years to encompass other cases of mental ill health, depression, and cases like in Canada.
I honestly could not care less what case you make in favour of this. I understand the mindset of people who are in these positions, possibly contemplating doing this. But, the troubling aspect is the people who are not in disability positions, who are not having depression, who are not in those positions, trying to push this forward. That's what troubles me greatly. I'm sure those sorts of people will claim, like Starmer will claim, that it's all about compassion. This isn't compassion. This is you wanting to remove an aspect of the population you don't want because you don't want the state paying for it. When the Tories in the 1980s were planning to cut the amount of state pension to be issued, they feared a riot so much that other ministers rebelled against the plans, and Thatcher, quote, abandoned Howe's plan to cut the state pension by 3%. How far we have come, ladies and gentlemen, when there was a time when we did actually truly care as a society, cared about the well-being of the vulnerable so much, politicians feared action from the public. Now, we are at a point when we just force those we deem a burden to simply expire. Progressive Britain, everyone.
It's literally hell on earth.
Speaking of not caring about pensioners...
This is disgusting. So millions of state pensioners were left stunned after Labour axed winter fuel payments for millions, 10 million exactly, of the elderly. But the future now looks even bleaker for pensioners following a recent exchange in Parliament where Conservative MP Louis French pressed the Prime Minister to rule out scrapping concessionary travel fares and council tax discounts.
Following Labour's disgraceful political decision to scrap winter fuel payments with little notice to millions of pensioners, will the Prime Minister today rule out scrapping concessionary travel fares and council tax discounts, which also help millions of pensioners across the UK? Yes or no?
Prime Minister. Well, as he knows very well, I'm not going to preempt the budget. It will all be set out in due course.
And Keir Starmer sidestepped, saying, I'm not going to preempt the budget. So he's obviously going to do it. Hints from both the Prime Minister and Chancellor Rachel Reeves suggest more austerity measures may be on the horizon.
Yes, not only is winter fuel gone, I covered that in a previous video, but bus passes could be too. A crucial lifeline for so many. But it doesn't stop there if we actually look at the quote. In a fiery session of Prime Minister's questions on Wednesday, Conservative MP Louis French slammed the reduction in winter fuel payments as a disgraceful political decision.
Correct.
and pressed the Prime Minister to rule out scrapping concessionary travel fares and council tax discounts, which also helped millions of pensioners across the UK. Let me read that again. Concessionary travel fares and council tax discounts. While he added to the end of that sentence about pensioners being directly related, there are other council tax discounts to think about. My own county council offers the following: single persons discount, specific reductions for carers, apprentices and mentally ill, physical disability reduction, occupied property exemption for those under 18, and empty property exemption. Do you really think Starmer will end with pensioners? He's a socialist at best, communist at worst. No, he's not going to end there. Pensioners were just the obvious targets and the ones that will get the most attention. Rightly so, by the way, by the media. But anyone who falls into those other categories that I've just mentioned, please pay close attention to what goes on in this country, to what leader Starmer does next, because if he can make money off you, he will. Council tax itself is always a contentious issue with those who argue in favour of it and those against it, which is made all the clearer by the difference in council thresholds between England and Wales. Wales has a much higher proportion of tax collection via council tax on property than England does. And you should really fear your council tax going up in England, because from this leaked recording of Darren Jones, the then Shadow Chief Secretary to the Treasury, stated in a constituency meeting that the council tax bans were out of date. A recording where the person who was asking Darren the questions had their voice distorted, so I will play the role of the person asking the question to Darren and you will hear his reply. I'm doing this because the distorted voice just sounds really, really odd, so I'll just play the role.
So let me be frank with you about council tax, right? Any party that's ever suggested revaluing council tax has never been elected. They just haven't.
But Labour have got such a big rating at the moment.
They won't if they start telling everyone else to pay more council tax.
Yeah, but they're not going to ask anyone to pay more council tax apart from 7,000 people that live in houses that are worth more than 1 million.
I think there'll be people in this village that will pay a lot more in council tax than they currently do now, many of them older people. So the fact is that, again, I get the frustrations, but we live in a capitalist democracy. So that requires people to vote for you to have power, to hold power in order to be able to do things within a framework that people are willing to work within. Now you could say that the whole system is like crap and needs to be changed.
Now that I will agree with.
So, lying then, right? Proof politicians will say anything to get into power, Tory or Labour, it makes no difference. All of this at the same time that Starmer has undeclared gifts in breach of parliamentary rules, especially as Lord Ali, don't get me started on that, donated to the party. Quote, Ali, the former chairman of the online fashion retailer ASOS, don't know how you say that, whose wealth is estimated at 200 million, is Starmer's biggest personal donor. This year, he has given the Labour leader £18,685 worth of work clothes and several pairs of glasses. He also spent $20,000 on accommodation for Starmer during the election and a similar sum on private office costs. Sex dungeons, probably.
Oh, you like it.
Oh!
Additionally, the Sunday Times revealed he had a number 10 security pass and used it to entertain donors in the garden of Downing Street.
It's corrupt. It's literally the definition of corrupt.
Poverty, desperation, the need to find a way to put food on the table. These aren't issues for today's crop of politicians. They don't understand those needs. They don't understand those wants. Once upon a time, despite me not agreeing with them on the issues, Old Labour had genuine people who came up from the roughnecks of the nation. They understood poverty, they understood hardship, and while I didn't agree with them philosophically, as I said, I did agree with their motives. No one could doubt that they cared about people. New Labour is the party of affluence. They are the new blue bloods. The Tories are the same, just less motivated and less intelligent in their manipulations. People, tough times are ahead. They really are. And I will be here to state my case, to give my opinion, and hopefully, together, in fact, in the comment section, we can find some solutions. Thank you all for watching. Do take care, and as always, God bless.